Welcome to OnSet. I'm saying it really slow. I'm Daniel Norton, here with Marissa. Hopefully we're live. We are here alone. Seth gave us the keys to the old car. Dad gave us the keys, so we're here. We're gonna, let me know how my audio and stuff is in the chat. I will be checking things periodically, but realize I am here by myself, so if I miss something, I'll try to get to it as quickly as possible. Today we're going to talk about working with mixed light or mixing light or combining light or however you want to say it. We're basically going to use flash with ambient or constant light as well as just the light that's in the space. And we're going to create some portraits and we're going to answer some questions because a few videos back, I don't know if you remember, I was doing some stuff where I was mixing the light together and it seemed like, but that wasn't what the video was about. I think it was about gels. And then I got a lot of questions about that. So I figured I'll do a video on this and we'll go through it. So what we want to do is, we'll start where we normally start, which is with flash, and then we're going to go from there. What we want to consider when we're mixing our light sources together is, we have three parts to an exposure, right? We've got your ISO.
Oh, ISO,
Yep.
Aperture, and don't tell me. Oh, gosh. Why am I blanking? ISO, aperture, shutter speed.
Shutter speed, that's right. So when we're dealing with this stuff, there's two of those things we'll make universal changes, we'll call it, and then one of them will only affect the ambient light. You know, for the most part, there is a slight change to the flash exposure in some cases when you adjust your shutter speed, but generally speaking, your aperture and your ISO will affect both the ambient light and the flash. Your shutter speed will really only affect the ambient light. So the way to really blend them together is to figure out and lock down the first two and then adjust the third, that is the shutter speed, to kind of blend and mix together your lights. So we're going to work that way. We're going to start with using the flash as our main light, and then we'll also use other lights as our main light and use the flash as fill, and we'll go from there. So let me get this thing set up. We've got a bunch of people here. Hey, hey, hey. Hello, hello. Assuming you can hear me. Hey to Marissa. I'm assuming you can hear me. Audio level's good. Okay, cool. Oh, Poland. Hey. All right, so let's just go real simple to start with. I'm going to get myself set up over here. See all the work Seth usually does. So I've got to go shout out to Seth.
Shout out to Seth.
Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. See? See? I got to get rid of this thing. Ba-ba-ba-boom. Graphics. There we go. All right. This is still good. I'm going to go like this and open up Capture One. So we're going to open up Capture One so you'll be able to see what we're shooting. We got it there. And then I'll put myself down in the corner with a little picture-in-picture action. Like that. I'll say OK. Coolio. Boom, like that. I'll say OK. I'll say save. All right. Haha. I did all that behind the scenes stuff so you could make it work for you. So let's start off with the flash. We're going, is this a wide enough shot? It is, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go with a real simple shot here. This is I will try to state all the gear I'm using as I go, but I will certainly forget. So if you have a question about what the gear is, let me know and I will tell you. This is a Profoto B10, which is a flash. It is a battery powered flash, 250 watt seconds. It is fitted inside of a Chimera Pro 2 softbox, 2 foot by 3 foot. This is a question I'm going to get probably, so I'll answer it ahead of time. What size softbox should I get? I mean, I could give you the depends. So, well, it really depends. Huh? But if you're starting out and you don't have any softboxes, you want to start off with one, this is a good size. 2 foot by 3 foot, however many centimeters that works out to be. This is great for portraits, for 3/4, and you can get away with full length if you got to. So we're going to shoot like a 3/4, so I'm going to set it up at a 45-degree angle. We want to place the center of the softbox above eye level. And this is in my A group. So I'm going to use something called TTL, which is through the lens. Well, it's funny because I opened the window. The white balance in here shifted. Sorry, guys. I'm going to use through the lens metering, which means that the camera and the flash are going to work together to give us a proper exposure. So here's my camera here. This is a this is a Nikon Z6ii. Oh, I set everything up good, okay. And I've got a remote on top. I'm gonna put it in TTL. Everything's set now. I don't have to do anything else except to set my camera. And how do we want to set our camera? Well, because we're not going to worry about the ambient light, or we don't want the ambient light to affect our shot at the beginning, we're going to get a baseline going. So we're going to set our camera at the highest shutter speed within its normal range, which in the case of this camera is 200th of a second. What is it for my camera, Daniel? That you'll have to look up, but usually it's somewhere between 125 and 250. Then we're going to set our ISO at the lowest in the normal range, not the extra low that you can set it on, but the normal range of the camera. In this case, that is 100. Once we're there, we're going to adjust our aperture until we get a black frame. That is a frame that's about 2 to 3 stops underexposed. So I know in this studio generally, because I'm here all the time, because it's my studio, somewhere around, 8. We'll go 7.1 because I want to be fancy. Then we're going to take one frame of that. I'm going to take a picture. Okay, we'll jump over to capture one. Boop, you guys can see that. And what we have is a black frame. So this is a black frame, obviously, but we can really check it by clicking over here and grabbing our exposure slider and dragging it over until we start to see Marissa, which is right around there. And right, that's about 3 stops underexposed. Okay, sometimes I do this and I'm only like a stop and a half or 2 stops. When you know you're gonna mix with the ambient light, you wanna be closer to 3 just to give yourself enough room, because we wanna have shadow room, right? We're gonna start lowering our shutter speed, which is going to affect our exposure. So we wanna start at a place where we have enough room to move around. So with that all set, I am now going to take my flash. I'm gonna turn on the autofocus because I had it off before. And we're gonna take a shot. Now, in theory, and in practice, TTL will give us a proper exposure. So here's our exposure. Marissa looks good. She looks properly exposed. She looks gorgeous. All right, questions, thoughts, concerns. Okay, here. How's my coffee? It is not bad. I do not love well, I don't know if I should give brand names. Should I give a brand? I don't love the way the Keurig makes the coffee versus like a percolator or something, or like a regular coffee pot, but when I'm here, it does it. It's a decent job. All right, percolator, exactly. Percolated coffee is like the best, but it's such a pain, so nobody really. You've never had percolated? You probably have. Have you ever been to like one of those like, maybe I'm dating myself, like one of those like pancake breakfasts that they have at like churches and stuff? You ever been to one of those?
They just put on the stove?
It's like in a big like metal cylinder, and there's a little glass top.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have had percolated.
Usually when you make that much coffee at once, it's usually percolated. If Seth were here, he'd be all 200 watching, only 30 likes. Oh yeah, that's true. Thank you. Yeah, how come 200 people are watching? There's only 30 likes. I'm trying to do my Seth. If you are watching right now and you're liking this so far, or you think you might like it, and if you want Marissa to smile more, there you go.
Yes,
please like the video. 1 like per smile. There we go. From France. Nice. Okay. 2x3 is 60 by 90. That's great. Okay. Awesome. New Zealand. Oh, wow. Nice. Okay.
Wow.
All right.
That's so
Whenever I think of New Zealand, I think of the Flight of the Conchords. Have you ever seen the Flight of the Conchords?
I'm not.
They are a parody folk band, I guess is how you would say it.
That sounds like
But it was also a TV show. And I saw them live here in New York in the Beacon Theater. It was amazing. They are quite funny. Okay. All right, so I went in a little closer because people were complaining that we showed the top of your head. So now the top of our head is gone. All right, this is simple, right? We have eliminated the light in the space. Now, just to kind of show you before we make it look nice, what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to start to adjust our shutter speed, because I just want to show you with our current settings. Now I'm going to take my flash and put it in manual. With our current settings, this is what it looks like. If I start to adjust our shutter speed, I'm going to go, let's say, to 100th of a second, which is 1 stop. We'll take another shot. We notice the flash exposure remains the same. Mostly nothing else has changed. Because remember, we're 3 stops underexposed. So if we go down another stop, 50th, we're still not getting really a good exposure on the background, but you can see slowly but surely the background is getting just ever so light, right? And if we go down to full 3 stops, we should start to get infiltration now on Marissa more, right? So now we're getting a, when we look at this compared to our original image, we can see that we're just starting to pick up the light on the inside. Like you can see the shadows are getting filled in a bit. It's not horrendous, and this is the reason why we do the black frame. I think that's a question I get a lot is, why do you do black frame like that? Because this is how much room we have to move. We can go down to a 20th of a second, and we're still barely getting any of this ambient light in our shot, because that was our baseline of our shadows. Now, I can add another light that doesn't have to be I was going to say trajectively for some reason, but tremendously powerful. And just to show you, to make it a little more obvious, I'm going to take this light here, which is a Rotolight EOS 2, I believe. And this is a light, one of those LED lights that can change color. So just to kind of show, I'm sure you can see me. Yeah. Okay, so you can see my hand. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to press my little boop, boop. Okay, there we go. Let me do this so I'm bigger, because it's so blown out you can't see it, obviously. Let me see if I stand in it. Okay, you can't really see it that much, but we'll see in the picture. I'm basically blue right now. I'm going to come in and, yeah, let's keep it blue. We're going to go on the blue side, and I'm going to dial it down intensity-wise so you can see. It's still so overexposed. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put it on Marissa, and we'll see what that looks like. So we're going to come in, and I'm going to basically do an on-axis fill, which means I'm going to put my light source basically in the camera position, and I'm going to fill forward. So we can see where it is here. It's kind of shining right on her. It is blue. And, I mean, you could use a light meter here, which probably make life easier, but I can also turn off my flash, which puts me in the mode. Hold on. I'm definitely still streaming, right? Okay, just making sure that my audio is still good, because I can't see the audio and the preview at the same time, because this is the way they have it set up. Okay, I've got it shining on her, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into Capture One, and I'm going to look through the camera for you guys. Okay, so right now, I have the flash turned off. Well, actually, I can do this. I'll turn the flash on. Okay, and it's not giving me a proper exposure, obviously, because it's like that so I can see. But if I press this button on my camera, because the way I have it set up, I've kind of turned off the flash. So I can see now, this is what my ambient exposure is as I'm at. So if I want to come in here and dial this up, we can see that she's getting more and more blue. This is going to be, of course, overridden by the flash. But now we can see, let's say that's a good shadow level. We like that, right? You guys can actually see that. In fact, if I want the background to be darker, I can actually come in here, dial my shutter speed back up, because this is a pretty bright light. Do the same thing, and then I'll just increase the power of this light until I get what I wanted. So that she doesn't mind being blinded. So I'm at like 82%, and that gives her, you know, Marissa's blue. It's probably still a little bit dark. Yeah, let's go here to start with. That's 100%. That's maybe too much. All right, so 98%. That looks terrible now, of course, where it is. She's completely blinded. Let's come back over here. We won't have her look at it, obviously. Yeah, look kind of towards the, maybe this way if you can. Is that possible, or is the light too bright?
No,
okay.
It's actually not that bad.
Okay,
Just
okay.
kidding around.
All right. All right. And now we can see in our actual exposure, well, we could see if I went like that. I was not showing you through the camera that whole time. Well, that's a bummer. Somebody's probably telling me in the chat. Joe McNally is here. Hey, Joe. All right, Marissa says hi. Well, she can actually talk.
Hello.
All right, so that's what we see now. And if we go back and we take a peek, again, at our original shot, we can see that this is with all the light removed from the space, only the flash. This is with us dialing in some ambient light, which happens to be the blue. Now, what we are seeing as well here, probably, is some of this light here. So I'm just going to turn that off. Yeah, you can see me. I'm going to turn off the overheads like that. And let's take one more shot to see what we get. I think I might dial this blue down a little bit too. Okay. It's important that you touch your gear a lot when you're shooting, because then it makes the subject think you know what you're doing. All right. All right, so now we've got a mixed light shot, right? She's got a little bit of blue on her skin here because of course that's affecting the shot on some level, but primarily her skin tone looks pretty nice, and in her shadow area, she's got the blue. So now she's got this little ice queen look going on. There's a lot of things we could do. If we thought that was too cool on her natural side, we could adjust our white balance, right? I could come in here and take my white balance and just dial it up until, I'm gonna make this bigger, until the natural part of her skin looks right again. And there we go. We got blue shadows, natural skin, good to go. If you start messing with the stuff in Capture One, make sure that you remember it. It'll keep doing it to the next, and no, you can't see me because I'm like a silhouette. I'm a silhouette. When I joined the mob, they didn't tell me that. So yeah, so simple as that, right? So with this basic theory in mind, see I paused there? They'll cut that part out in the edit. With this basic theory in mind, we can do all kinds of stuff. We have so many things ahead of us. We could use this light, I'm just turning it off so she's not blind. We could use this, for instance, to light our background and have different color backgrounds. So let's try that. And what's nice about this is, like gels are pretty much the most common way that we're lighting our background these days.
The kids.
These days. And gels are fantastic. You know, I remember carrying gels, yesterday actually, but I remember carrying gels when I was younger. You know, and you would take these gels and you're switching them and you'd be like, oh yeah, you show the client, look at how great this blue background is. Like, what would it look like if it was red? How about purple? And then you're switching gels. What's great about using LEDs for this, if you can control your space, is we can start messing with our background color pretty easily. So I'll just show you, this time I'll do it correctly. I'll show you through the camera what we can do. All right, so you're looking through the camera and you can see that the background is really bright because of course the camera is giving us that fake exposure so that we can see. So if we want to give an actual exposure, that is turn off the flash, we can see now the background is blue, right? And if we want to change the saturation, we can dial our shutter speed, right? I'm going faster shutter speed, you see how it's getting darker? Darker generally will equal more saturation. If we dial our shutter speed down, we're getting brighter and punchier until we get almost an electric blue. We find the blue that we like, we're good to go. We have the flash still set up. Now remember, the flash is gonna hit the background a little bit because we saw that it wasn't black, it was gray, right? So I'm just gonna spin this a little bit to get less on the background. And let's take a shot and see what we get. Okay. She's like, there it is, okay. Now we've got, of course she's warm, remember I told you we'll keep the setting. We gotta go back and reset our white balance. Unless you like that, of course. If you like that, then you can say, that's what I'm meant to do. Now we have natural skin tone again, light on her, background is blue, and then when she says to me, what if the background were?
What if the background were green?
Green, I can go like, oh, green, sure. Let me go over to my hue selector. Primary green. Now, of course, the hues are going to make a difference in the reflectance. Like, I feel like that's probably brighter, but let's just take a shot the way it is so we can see the difference. Yeah, there we go. Green.
Christmas.
Bam. What? 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 And again, you can do that with a gel as well. She looks too cool. That's better. All right. Don't mind all my tweets. Okay, go back up, Joe. Uh-oh. Let's see. Let's see, okay, cool. All right, awesome. So again, we're using this same practice. So we have this green background. We've got, obviously it's really green to us here. Because this background light is really not coming forward, when we look at our true exposure, let me go back here again. I know it can be confusing. This is one of those things that's confusing when you're using live view with the flash on the camera. Because again, if you have your live view to not show you the actual exposure, what you see is this, and you're just like, that doesn't look right. But when you turn off your flash, or if you program your camera like Seth did for me, we can see that this is the actual exposure on the background. And we can dial our shutter speed. Again, we're at 40th now. If I wanted to make it just a hint of green, I could dial down to like, I don't know, a 13th. Yes, you could also turn up or down the light power, but remember, I'm going brighter now, and the light is at full power, so I cannot go any lighter with the green without changing my ISO and my shutter speed, which I don't want to do. So I'm just going to go here. And the beauty of all this is that as long as none of that light from the back is touching her, she is going to stay crispy, right? That's out of focus, that's not blur, right? We're not getting blur on her because none of that green light is coming forward and you can't see the picture. Yes, you can. I have this right. None of this green light is coming forward. So we can do our shutter speed all day long. We can have long shutter speeds as long as, long. This feels like a talking point. I'm gonna come over here and turn this off for a second. Now it's real dark in here. It's real dark in here. Coming this way, everybody's waiting. They're like, hurry up, Daniel. All right. Okay, so, I forgot what I was gonna say. It was a talking point. What was I saying? Something about that. Oh, right. What we want to think of when we're using a constant light with a flash in this case, or really in any case, or any kind of multiple light sources, we want to talk about zones. Zones of where the light falls. That is, if my light here lighting her is not affecting the background, then anything I do to this light will not affect the background. Thus, if my light on the background is not hitting her, then anything I do to this light will not affect her. If you were doing this not in a quick demo to show people and you were doing it like for an actual job and you had the time, I would probably take some foam boards and block out, I'll just quickly show you, on either side of her, like this, so that we don't get, you can see that, right? So we don't get kickback. We're not really getting too much kickback here, but if you're getting paid, you got to put on a show. So, but that's what you want to do. You want to make sure you're not getting infiltration. We want to control where the light is falling. And again, we can do all kinds of stuff. Let's say you're shooting for a client and the different people like different color. You could literally be like, oh, you have a red shirt. We can do this color. Oh, you like this is your favorite color. We can switch that. And this is where these LEDs come in useful. Like I said, you could do the same thing with flash and gels, but these color changing LEDs are really cool. Do I ever meter the LED light? Okay, yes. So do I ever meter the LED light? You could do it that way. I find a lot of people don't use handheld meters these days, so I try not to use them in the demos because people will be like, I don't have a meter. But yes, what you would do is you would meter on the wall, the colored wall, and you would match the exposure to the camera in order to get a gray exposure, right? So somewhere in the middle, and then if you wanted a dark green or a bright green, you would just expose differently based on that. You'd change your shutter speed different based on that. Hopefully that made sense. Let me know if that made sense. There was another question. Model LED light. Well, what model is the LED light? That is a Rhodolite, I always forget the name of this thing. Astro, hold on. This is why I set the Aero. This is the AO2 from Rhodolite. Lots of lights do this. What you want to look for, if this is a good one, but there's also anything you look for that says RGBW LEDs will allow you to do all this kind of stuff. Do I have a preference for how diluted her pupils are? I do not have a preference. Okay. Greetings from Belgium. Thank you. What's the difference between an umbrella and a softbox? Well, that is a good question. What is the difference between an umbrella and a softbox, Marissa?
Well, an umbrella is rounder, and sometimes you can like reflect it, like the light bounces. Although I guess.
And what does that do?
Oh, it diffuses it.
And.
Spreads it out. Spreads
it out more, right? Umbrellas tend to spread the light out more. Softboxes tend to give you more control. That's the difference between an umbrella and a softbox. All right. Advantage of metering would be to help you consistency if you didn't set it. Yeah, exactly. You could do it if you want to set up again later. That is 100% true. Assuming that you're in the same space, at the same distance, with the same reflectance wall? Yes. When you go on locations and you want to shoot something and you want to repeat that shot, it's usually best. I mean, I'm just using the wall in my studio, mostly because I like to do this during this demos because I want to show you how much we can do with just light, not building a whole set. But if I was doing this for a commercial client, I would get a roll of paper from Savage. That way I know that wherever I went, I could have the exact background that was the same. Then I could meter it and it would look exactly the same. But if you just shoot it against some wall and meter it, it won't look the same. Because remember, your camera is capturing the light that's reflecting off the wall. When you're metering, you're only actually getting, I guess you could use a spot meter. But you're only getting the light that's coming to the wall, right? So if the wall was black, it would look different than it is if the wall's white. Is my point there. Good questions, guys. Best way to mix colors. Mix colors. I don't know what you mean by mixed colors. Elaborate more in the chat as we keep going. Now, the other reason why, so some people might say, Daniel, I probably should have started this way. Let me start over. I got so much into the technical right away because I get so excited by it, but why the heck do we even want to do this? Right? Like, why am I mixing lights? I have these Profoto flashes. I have 2 of them. I have 3 of them. I have 4 of them. Why? Why would I ever want to do this? Well, sometimes it's because you want something to give you something that you, say something multiple times. Sometimes it's because a certain piece of equipment will do something really quickly and make your life more efficient, like an RGBW LED, like this Rotolite EOS. See, I got the name right that time. If I know I'm going to want to change the color a lot, or I don't know what color I want it to be, a light like this can be invaluable to just put in the shot and use for color, right? Instead of bringing a million gels with me, especially if I'm trying to work fast. Another reason why I might want to have constant lights in my kit would be to shoot video, right? If I'm going to shoot video, this does have a decently powerful modeling light, but if I want to shoot an interview of her right after, having a constant light might be useful. So learning how to use everything in your kit so I don't have to carry 4 flashes and 4 constant lights, but rather mix them together is really the point of this demo, which I didn't say at the beginning. So we'll cut this part and insert it at the beginning of...
Well, I have a question.
Yes, Marissa has a question.
Would you be able to use it as like a green screen, potentially?
Okay, so could you use this as a green screen? Marissa asks, could you use this with a green screen or as a green screen? Kind of. If I was going to use this with the green screen, I would still use a green roll of paper. In fact, that's the best way, in my opinion, to do a green screen, is you get your green screen and then you light it with green light. That way you get the maximum amount of green. I would not necessarily want to shine it onto a green wall, onto a wall to make it green, and the reason for that is the key, I'm using the word key, the key to keying a chroma key, which is a green screen, is making it even. And using a single light like this is not going to be really even. So, you know, I'd rather use an actual green screen. If I had like 4 of these, I could probably do it, but it wouldn't be the first, I wouldn't buy it for that reason. Again, or if you're doing something real small, it'll probably work. But that's a really good question. You certainly could do that. Or really any color. You can do any color. The Luma key in Premiere will allow you to pull any color out, as long as it's not. All right, cool. 4K. 5 hours, 4K. Oh, that's your name. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so what's the best way to balance the studio lights? Fairy lights. Same way. Fairy lights, candles, all of this is the same. A candle, which by the way, I have a live stream where we shoot with a candle, is exactly the same thing. It's just a slower shutter speed. And if we're going to have a candle in the shot, we need to make sure that none of that candlelight, and you'd be surprised when you start dialing down the shutter real slow to get the candle correct, you want to make sure that none of that candlelight is affecting your subject. So, you know, you've got to, it's all about setting it up in a way that the candlelight is going to be lit, but it's not going to light your subject. So you're not exposing with the candle, you're exposing for the candle. So let me actually show something. I don't have a candle, but I can show you this. Let's say if we take this light, let's say it's a candle. It's not a candle, obviously. And we put it in our shot. This is going to look terrible, but I just want to demonstrate something. I'm going to turn it way down like a candle would be. Let's turn it down to like... Okay, so we've got this light. Let's say that we're like, oh, it's really dramatic to have this red light shining on her hair. Like this, right? And we want to show the red light in the picture. Well, first of all, I'm going to need to turn off the lights in the space, because if I don't do that, that's never going to show up. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, there we go. No, no sound. There we go. Sorry, guys. Oh, man, let me do that all again. All right, here we go. You can still hear us. Okay, you jinxed it. All right, sorry. Okay, wow, okay. I'm going to go back. We're going to roll back through time. Okay, we're getting a million things to say, no sound. Sorry about that. I unplugged when I went. Oops. Okay, there's a delay. I know I'm seeing, wow, look at all the things when people say no sound. Sorry. All right, guys, back to this. I'm going to go, so we can cut it out later. I'm going to turn the studio lights off. All right, so if we have our light in our shot the way it is right now, and we left our exposure the way it was, which was at a 13th of a second, and we make a photo, what we're going to get, you can hear me now, I'm assuming. Okay, yep, back on, okay. What we see is a red light in the shot, right? But we don't really get much on her. We get a tiny little bit, but it's barely doing anything. In fact, if we want the light to be kind of a dark red, right, we would need to go even slower on our shutter. Like, look at how I'm doing it now. Like, let's say I like that. Oh, it's like blood red. So I do that, and now what we get is a red light, right? But it's barely on her, if on her at all. So this is basically how we light a candle. We have the candle in the shot. We expose to the candle light, the light on the candle itself, the wick, the flame looks correct. Then we expose our subject separately with a light. That's just basically how you do a candle. Same thing. What I was showing before that you missed the sound was, if you were to go, oops, sorry, ignore that one. If you were to slow down my shutter speed enough so that the actual light was affecting Marissa, thus as the candlelight was affecting Marissa as it would be, we can see that this is now too bright, right? So we need to consider that in order for our light source to look correct in the shot, I guess right here, it's not going to look correct on her, right? Correct exposure for the light source, correct exposure for her, two different things. That's why we want to use multiple types of lights. Think that makes sense? Okay. Can I hear you? Yes, I can. Okay. Okay, so that's all I covered. So really, if you're doing a candle or you're doing any kind of ambient light, let's do light for the room itself. Let's forget about this light for a second. This red light. I'm going to turn the ambient light back on. Actually, I'm going to do something for you guys that has never been done before. I'm breaking all the on-set rules ever. Because as soon as I do this one time, that's all you're ever going to want. Do you know what that thing is? I'm going to put the windows in the background. Because this is a perfect example, even though it's dark out, because it's New York. All right, we have windows there. So let's have Marissa turn and just, I guess you can just go right there. Yeah. Sorry, you're going to see the back of my head now. These cameras aren't set up for this. All right, so, can we still see you? Hold on, let me see what the camera looks like. Yeah, we can still see her. All right, I know people get mad if I block you. So, all right, so we have Marissa. She's by the windows. This is not going to be a super well composed shot because, you know, I'm not changing everything just for the one shot. So there she is. She's looking good. She's like, here I am. Now, if you're going to see the top of her head, which is great. If I turn off my flash and I turn off the lights in the space, I got a new hat, by the way. It's like coming off the back. It's like it's doing that weird thing where it gets all floppy. All right, you can see with the video camera pretty clearly that you can see light in there and she's dark, which is exactly what I see through my camera, which I will show you right now. All right, there she is. She's out of focus, but there she is. So there's Marissa. She's in front of the windows. I'm at a third of a second at 7.1. Now, of course, that's probably pretty slow. She's a silhouette though. So again, the window light itself is not really affecting her. So the shutter speed isn't that big of a deal for me. But you know, let's just for safety purposes, let's go to 5.6. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to dial this up until she starts looking a little more silhouette-y, which is right there. And we can see the windows. Now, if we take a picture of this, okay, it's going to be out of focus because I focused in the center. It's on eye focus and she's in the shade, so I can't really see her. But It's fine. Okay. We can see that the windows are exposed, right? But she's dark. Now, in order to get her to be lit, what we have to do is bring a light in. Now, we can do it any number of ways. The way to do it with this demonstration, of course, you can't see that because I didn't show the picture. The way to do it with this demonstration, because I want to mix lights, I'm going to use a flash. You could also use a constant light for this, but let's take our flash and let's put it here. And you're going to be there, right? So I'm looking at whenever you're putting a light in a shot that's got natural light in it or any kind of light, you want to kind of put your light where it seems like it makes the most sense. I think for me right here is probably pretty good. And what we're going to do is, I don't want to put it too close to her because I want it to feel like it's wrapping around from the outside. So there it is. I'm going to turn my flash on. Okay. And now we have a nice balanced shot where, obviously the flash is in the shot, but there she is, she's lit up. The light behind her is a little bit dull, right? So what we need to do now that we've got that is we need to adjust our shutter speed until it looks more natural. So I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna take my flash, I'm gonna put it into manual, and then I'm just gonna dial my shutter speed. I'm gonna open it up one stop. Right? And now the light in the outside is starting to come back up. We're getting brighter windows, right? She's out of focus, but that's, well, it probably moved actually. All right, we are getting some ambient light on her. Let me just see. Yeah, okay, there we go. Hold on, I'm gonna do this. It's super dark and she's backlit, so the camera's having issues focusing, so I'm just gonna put the modeling light on for a second. I'm gonna lock down the focus. We'll turn the modeling light off. Okay. Oh, I think you blinked. Yeah, she blinked. That's okay. All right, but no, it looks really dreamy. Okay, so I'm not gonna mess around all day trying to get the focus right, but you can get an idea of how you would mix these two things together. Back out and come, what? Hold on, the audio is coming back in and out? Really? Huh, that's weird. Huh. All right, let me know. I'll try to watch it, but I don't know why it's going in and out. And, huh. Okay, so I'm having an autofocus question, so I'm actually going to quickly answer this because I think it's relevant. Let's go here. All right. I have the camera set to eyeball focus. It is super dark in here. You can see that I'm at almost a second exposure and it's dark, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cheat the camera a little bit. You can either switch to manual focus. I'm normally on eyeball focus. That's how I always shoot. But for this kind of thing, I'm gonna come over and turn it on to, let's say the little point focus guys. I guess like single point autofocus, they call it. I'm gonna turn off the continuous autofocus. I'm gonna put it on single shot. Then I'm gonna move my spot directly onto Marissa's face. Yeah, okay. Now I'm gonna turn the lights back off for a second. Switch to here, so at least you're looking at a blurry, but a picture of Marissa and not just a complete shadow. And what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna focus on her. And the camera seems like it's grabbing it, but if it doesn't, right, if the camera doesn't grab it, then what we'll do, I'll show you in a second. So if you're having problems even then, yeah, that grabbed it. But let's say you were still having problems and the camera wouldn't grab it. The trick is that's what your modeling light is for. We would turn the modeling light on. We would have Marissa get into a pose and say, okay, pose right there, hold it, and then I'm gonna turn the modeling light off, and then I'll take a shot. And that way our focus is locked in. That's called locking down focus. That's what we used to have to do before the cameras were so good. But again, remember what we're doing here is we're mixing this light. It looks pretty natural. She's sharp because she's only being affected by, no, I'm a silhouette. She's only being affected by the flash. So she looks nice and sharp and perfect. But the reality is that this shot is at half a second, right? It's a half a second exposure. And the reason why it needs to be half a second is in order to get these windows to be bright because it is nighttime, right? And I can go even slower. on the shutter, and I should still be able to get, yeah, let's try that. All right, here we go. I'm gonna do the same thing, modeling light on. I'm gonna focus, she's gonna hold it, and we're gonna shoot. Oh, I probably should have told you to stay still, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. Yeah, she moved. Okay, you have to hold because it's a 1 second exposure. At 1 second, we're getting some light in here on her. So I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna focus on her. Let me move the point to her face. Okay, here we go. You got your spot. Hold. Hold on. Hold, 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 hold. Boom. Okay, now you can move. And then we've got sharp Marissa, bright windows. I know the flash is in the shot, but it is dark out basically, and it looks like it's a cloudy, nice day. It's never gonna look like the sun is blasting through the windows because of course there's no matter how bright you make the windows, they'll never look like the sun is blasting through because it's not directional. The only way you can do that is by putting the light outside. But this allows us to, and in fact, if you used a longer lens and got her further from the windows, you could really do long exposures. You could do multiple seconds and she would be totally fine. All right. Starlight, okay. The audio is fine. It probably not caught up. Oh yeah, that could be true, okay. Okay, well the audio in Germany is good and that's all we care about. All right, so there you go. Don't tell Seth that I use the windows because he's don't use the windows, but no, it's fine. So that's basically it, right? So the practical point of using this is, what do we have? Like I would mix it with the light in the space, but the light in the space is ugly. Like why would I do that? But if you were in a situation where you wanted to do that, you were in an office and you wanted, let's say the rest of the office to be lit up, but you didn't have enough lights with you, you could light your subject particularly and then let the ambient light fill the space. That does work just as well. Cool, all right, now, one other thing, I'm getting like, my mother calls me on my watch every single time I do a live stream. All right, so she's like, don't screw it up. No, she doesn't. All right, one final thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go and, because people often ask me this, like, I started this way because I wanted to show you because it was the most natural way to do it, but if you had a flash, you had a constant light, and you wanted to do like a blown out white background, what's the better way to do it? And I find using the flash for the background works better for me. And the reason why I say that is because the flash is more powerful. It's going to do a better job of blasting the background out. So if I'm going to do a white background, I will often use the flash for the background, the ambient for the front light. So let's do a shot like that and see what we get. So this is going to be, I'm just going to take a small C-stand over here. What are we looking at? We're looking at Marissa, which is fine, so that's good. I never use the other camera. I have another camera, guys. Watch this. Let's see if I can do it. There it is. All right. So I got this little C-stand. I'm going to put it here. And I'm going to take my flash. Oh. See, all right. So, you can come over here if you don't mind and sit in front of the flash. No, this way. Yeah. I shall hide it behind you.
Facing.
Right, facing me. Yeah. Just like you were before, just with that thing directly behind you. Come a little more this way. Perfect. Okay, so here, we're going to use the flash to light our background. So I'm going to go all the ways back to the beginning. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong camera. All the ways back to the beginning. And what we're going to do is I'm going to set my camera back to 200th of a second. 5.6, because now it's a bit darker in here. ISO 100. My flash is in manual. I'm just going to turn it. It's at 7.6, so which is like almost all the ways up. So I'm going to turn it up just about all the ways up. I just want all the power that I can get. I'm going to come back over here, move the focus point to her eyeballs. We're going to take a shot. And what we're going to get is a super, super bright shot, right? Completely overexposed because the light from the background is ripping forward. What we're going to do is we're going to take our light. You can't see it. Let me show it to you. We're going to take our light and we're going to dial it down. Now, there's lots of things you could do. You could close down the lens too, but we don't want to do that because if we do that, then we're going to have trouble with our constant light. So That's really bright. Now, the way that we figure this out is the simplest way, because people often ask about meters and stuff. So the simplest way to figure this out is to come over here, and the same way we did our black frame, we're going to grab this exposure slider, we're going to go this way. And once we get to the point where the background is still white, but we're not losing our hair, you can also do the white point thing, but not everything does that. So we're not losing our hair with blowback. The background is still white at 255. This is basically where we want to be. So this tells me, not that much. It's about half a stop. So I'm going to take my light, I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to turn it down 0.6 because, you know, that's how I like to roll. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to turn my focus back on the eyeball focus because I find that usually works better for portraits, but not the one for cats, but the one for people. Unless, of course, you're shooting cats. And if you are, good luck to you, because cats are not an easy subject to photograph.
It's like herding cats.
Okay. All right, so now, again, she's underexposed because we got our background correct. We have that kind of, she's living in a world of white. Now we don't just want, maybe you do want that. Maybe you want that like, oh, it's a little bit dark and moody, but you know, nobody wants that. More lights, more money. We're gonna come in and we're gonna throw a little bit of light on her. And because I set it up, whenever you set up any lights, you gotta make sure you use them. That's really the key here. This is a, this is a dado light LED, a DLED as it would be. And what I'm gonna do with this guy, this is a DLED 7, is I'm going to take off the barn door. We don't want it to be too dramatic. Somebody's about to say, Hollywood lighting. No. We're gonna put a little softbox on it. And we're gonna light her up with this. I'm gonna use a small softbox because 2 reasons. 1, I want control of where it falls, and 2, I do want it a little bit punchier and a little more classic. So this is gonna be bright. For those who had pupil interest, if you shine a bright light on somebody's eyes, it will make the little, I guess this is the black part of the pupil? No, it'll make the little black part, the iris, go small, which will make the color brighter. So people do like that sometimes, especially in color portraiture.
The black part is the pupil.
Okay. The other part that's not the, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. Okay, so we do this the exact same way. I'm gonna come over here. And of course, right, we're looking through the camera. I'm gonna go like this, boop. I'm gonna press the button on the side of the camera to turn off the flash. And we see this is all the light's doing right this second, right? So let me make sure it's turned up all the way. The one thing you will find is that, generally speaking, flash is just really powerful. That's really one of the reasons why we use flash. And that doesn't mean that these other lights should be discounted. It just means that, oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so here we go. Now, we've got crisp light on her as opposed to this underexposed, right? And we can control the density of it however we want. She's lit up, the background is really bright and powerful, and we're good to go. Easy as that. Okay, let's see. Hold on. I'm getting flamed by...
Flamed.
Hide user on this channel. You are gone. Okay, girls online, you are gone. All right, we're getting mobbed by dirty sites. Okay, let's see, somebody's asking, okay, does flash curtain sync matter on long exposure? Flash curtain sync only matters on long exposure if something's moving through the frame and gets exposed, like if there's a blur, basically. When things aren't moving and things aren't touching, no. You missed it from the beginning, we can watch it the rest later. Okay, so yes, let's talk a little bit about flash, because I see people are answering that and I just want to make sure it's clear. Okay, like most things in life, the answer is yes and no. If I'm using first or second curtain sync, in the original situation we had, if you were watching at the beginning, where none of the light was affecting her and I'm locked down on a tripod, it doesn't matter. It only matters if the subject that's lit by the constant light is moving or the camera moves during the exposure. Otherwise, the sync doesn't, it's not gonna affect it. I won't say it doesn't make a difference, but the difference it makes is incredibly small. So it matters if things are moving. If you're locking down, it's not so important. So I wouldn't overly worry about it. All right, let's see. Is it better to take the flash from first or second? It doesn't matter. Like I said, I like the first curtain sync, and so I'll tell you why I like one over the other. Technically on paper it doesn't matter, but typically when I press the button, I'm trying to catch the exposure. And since she is being, well, in this situation it doesn't matter, right? But if you were doing it with the flash lighting her, it would matter. I'd want to be first curtain unless something was moving. Because when I press the button, I want to grab that exposure, if that makes sense. In this case, no, it does not matter. Depends on what you want to do exactly. That's the answer. Something about Godox. Make some good flashes. 360 people watching, but only 116 likes. Where are the other 200 people? Please like and subscribe. All right, is better case natural light in the back? Again, it doesn't. Okay, so again, let me just. What's important here and that might be being missed, and I think this is really key for the people who are asking the first and second curtain sync questions. I'll just explain it again, just because now you're specifically asking about the window. Even in that case, none of the light from the background was affecting Marissa. So it does not matter as long as you're on a tripod. If the light is affecting her at all, like if it's coming forward, let's say, and wrapping around, then it matters greatly, and then it will just matter what look you want, whether you go first or second curtain. But in an ideal world, when you're mixing these lights, unless you're using one for fill, you don't want them to intersect. You want to use zones of light. The background should be lit completely separate from the subject, so that way you do not have a problem. And then your curtain sync won't matter. Okay. Uplight shot with the room lights off. Why would I do that? No. Arrive late. Does the same apply when using flashlight and light with the ring of light that lends cold tone? Right, well, if you are, thanks Vic, if you are using a light that's a different tone, a different color tone, then it will matter if you're not over or underexposing it, right? So, for instance, this is a good question. I have this light which is set at the same color as my background light, but if I take, this will be a good kind of finishing area here. We'll rebalance everything out. This is at full power. It is set to effectively daylight. If I turn it and set it to 3200 Kelvin, which is tungsten or incandescent, right? And then I turn off these lights, of course. What are you looking at? You can see her, right? Okay. We can see it's lighting her up. This camera's on auto white balance, so you're not seeing anything. But if I look through my camera, we can see that she is warm, right? If I take the white balance of my camera and I change it to 3200 to match that, basically, I will not remember that I did this later, and then later I'll be taking shots and be like, what did I just do? Okay. Now we can see that she looks correct as far as the camera is concerned, 3200, 3200, right? But the background light is going to seem more blue. Now, because the flash is overpowered and bright, it's not going to look different at all. I mean, it makes her squint a little bit. She looks right. No, that's just a weird expression. No, okay. Right, here we go. She looks correct, but the background just looks the same, right? So if we, in order to notice a difference, we're talking about exposure, right? So you don't see anything because I haven't switched this yet. In order to notice anything, right, you don't really see a difference. I mean, a minor, because I'd have to really tweak the white balance because I didn't have it exactly yet, but whatever. you get the idea. It looks basically the same. If we want to see a difference in mixing the lights together, like with the flash, like you're mentioning with the flashlight, we would need to take our background light, which is our flash, and underexpose it enough so it's not just blown out. So if I take it down, let's say, oh, I don't know, 3 stops. I take another shot. Now we can start to see that, and I'll have to adjust again, but now we can start to see that she's looking warm and the background has a cool tone to it because we're not getting all that kickback from the floor. So let me just do a quick re-evaluation of the exposure. Because remember that when you're in a big white space like I am, the light is bouncing around. All right, there's only 1/8 of a second, so be relatively still. Here we go. All right. Okay, so we can see that she's got a bit of a warm to her and the background is a bit cool, right? If we white balance her correctly, I'm just going to do it here to make life faster, so that her skin tone looks correct, we will see that the background begins to look cool. And that's because we're using lights of 2 different color temperatures. If you use a flashlight that is bluish to light the background, let's say, and then you use a flash on your subject that is neutral, the background will look bluish. If you use a bluish flash on her and then white balance it correctly, and then your other light will look warm. Right? Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense with that demo. Okay. Something was online before what? You find managing zones of light hard for full-length photos. It is very difficult unless you have space. Space is your friend. Relative, yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so we got that, right? Everything's good. We're basically at 6 o'clock here in New York. It's dark out. Halloween was last week, so Seth is still recovering. Hopefully we'll get him back in next time. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks. What white balance setting do you usually use for your camera? This camera, 5,000. I would test every camera that you have. The YouTube is telling me this is a good time for an ad, but you're not going to get an ad because I'm in control. It does say that, doesn't it? You see that, right? It's like, you should put an ad here. All right. Okay. So, use high-speed sync, stop motion ballet. You could do that, sure, or just use we'll do that in another video. So come back again in 2 weeks. We'll have another fun video for you live here on Adorama. If you have not already, please do subscribe and ring the bell. Also, like the video so they keep bringing us back. This is Marissa Roper. You can find her at marissa.roper. Or is it Roper? Yeah, that's right. Not Marissa Roper. We're Marissa.Roper. The other Marissa Roper, nice person, not the same person. And I'm Daniel Norton, and we will see you in 2 weeks. And now this is the slow, awkward part.